رمضان أوله رحمة وأوسطه مغفرة وآخره عتق من النار.
Together we can make it on the road to Jannah. You and me hand in hand on the road to Jannah. Together we can make it on the road to Jannah. You and me hand in hand on the road to Jannah. All my life I've had this dream where I can live in peace, knowing you and me are on the road, on the road.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, welcome to a new episode of our program, Ila al-Jannati Zumara, Together to Paradise. Today's episode is called Leave It for Allah. Leave it for Allah. Leave what? Leave whatever bad deed, whatever sin that you're doing. Leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, we have this concept in Islam that is absolutely amazing. Some people say it's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but it's not a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. But the meaning of it is absolutely true. The concept says this. It says, مَنْ تَرَكَ شَيْئًا لِلَّهِ عَوَّضَهُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهُ. The concept says, whoever leaves something for Allah, Allah will reward him with something that is better than it. SubhanAllah. Think about all the things that you're doing in your life that you're disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in. And sincerely think to yourself, should I leave it? And if I leave it, should I leave it for who? Should I leave it for my health? Should I leave it for my kids? Should I leave it for my wife? Should I leave it because I'm scared that people will know about it? Or should I leave it for Allah? That is what we're talking about here today. We're talking about two things. First of all is leaving any haram that we're doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second part is being absolutely sure that if we do leave it for Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it with something that is much, much, much better. Let's take some examples. See, I was sitting with a brother just last night, and he was telling me about, his smoking habits, and that he wants to quit smoking. And I asked him, why do you want to quit smoking? And he told me, I want to quit smoking because my health is getting affected. I feel it. I feel it in my lungs. I can't breathe as well as I used to breathe. I told him, okay, what else? He said, I want to leave smoking, and I want to quit smoking for my kids so that I can live longer, so I can be able to see my kids grow up and get married. I told him, okay. Why? Why else do you want to leave smoking? He said, I want to leave it because it's costing me a lot. There's a huge financial burden on me. I'm barely making ends meet anyway, and now I'm smoking. And it's costing me a lot. And I told him, okay, why else do you want to leave it? And he said, no, that's about it. These are all the reasons I can think of. And I told him, if you want to leave it for these reasons, then you are much, much, much less likely to leave it. Because you always you're giving yourself an excuse. You'll say, my health, smoking doesn't really cause cancer. It's not really proven, even though it is, but, it's not really proven. My kids, if it's meant for me to live, then I'll live to see them as they grow older and, get married and this. As when it comes to a financial burden, it's only costing me a few bucks, so it's not a big issue. You'll always make an excuse for yourself. So I told this brother, instead of leaving it for your health, for your kids, for your pocket, leave it for Allah. Leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever sin that you're doing, leave it for Allah. Leave it for Allah, my dear brothers and sisters. That's what we're talking about. And whatever sin that you're doing, leave it. Not for anything else, but leave it for Allah. Because when you do that, then you're doing it out of sincerity. You're not doing it because you're scared of anyone. You're not doing it because you're scared of anything. You're doing it because you are fearful of Allah. As we said, there are two parts to the equation that we said at the beginning of the episode. Said, مَنْ تَرَكَ شَيْئًا لِلَّهِ عَوَّضَهُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهُ. Whoever leaves something for Allah, Allah will replace it with something that is better. So we talked about the first part, leaving things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not leaving them for anyone else or for anything else, but leaving them for Allah. Now let's talk about the second part, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it with something even better. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And whoever is conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will make a way out for him from any hardship and will replace it with something better. Will give him something better and give him a way out of any hardship that he is going through. See, this part, my dear brothers and sisters, we need to do it out of conviction. If you truly believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your Lord, then you will understand that when He promises you something, that He will do it, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because He's the one who said it. He's the one who said, if you're conscious of Him, He will give you something that is better. He will make a way out for you. He will love you. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. So, what do we do? Tell me, I'll give you some, let me tell you some practical examples. For example, we have talked about smoking, but let's talk about something else that many of us as Muslim youth fall into, which is haram relationships. Something that I'd like to call my secret boyfriend, my secret girlfriend. What is that? See, we all know, the standard boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Someone brings, a girl home and he tells his parents, oh, dad, mom, this is my girlfriend, or the opposite. We're not talking about that. Obviously, as Muslims, we know that that is absolutely haram. But I'm talking about another type of relationship that we have been seeing in the Muslim communities and within Muslim youth for maybe the past 10 or so years. And it's increasing day by day. And I'm getting a lot of emails and a lot of messages specifically about this point. And this goes as follows, okay? You have a brother who is about 18 years old and you have a sister who's about 16 years old. Or you have a brother who's about 20 years old and a sister who's about 19 years old. And they got to know each other somehow, okay? And we're talking about Muslims here. I'm not talking about, the brother is a Muslim and he has a non-Muslim girlfriend. I'm talking about two Muslim brothers, two Muslims, a brother and a sister. And what they're doing is that they are having this secret relationship. They don't want to admit to themselves that they are doing something haram. Why? Because they supposedly have good intentions. They have an intention that maybe in 4 or 5 years they're going to get married. They're not doing this so that they can just become your typical boyfriend or girlfriend. They don't even have the idea of being a boyfriend or girlfriend in their minds. What they really want to do is that they want to get married. But as we know, this is absolutely haram. Because whatever we call it, whatever our intentions are, this is a haram relationship. So we should leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah will replace it with something better. And you can be like, oh, I want that person. I don't want another person. There's no better person than this guy. Or there's no better person than this sister. One of two things will happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it with something better in this specific situation can mean two things. Can mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you someone who is better than this person in the future. And you never know what this person could have turned out to be because you don't know them well enough now. Or the second thing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you something better, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the same exact person but in the halal. And that is definitely better. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless your relationship because it will be a relationship that is based on the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rather than on the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's take another example. For example, we talked about smoking. And under smoking goes all types of haram things. See, my dear brothers and sisters, we have a very big problem within the Muslim community these days with drugs. Yes, I'm talking about drugs. And I'm not talking about Muslim youth only being involved in taking drugs. There are some Muslim youth in different cities in the US who are drug dealers. They are dealing drugs. My message to you today is leave it for Allah. Leave it for Allah. Don't leave it because you're scared of the government. Don't leave it because you're scared of the police, even though you should be. But leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you something better. If you are working at a haram place, leave it for Allah. Leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah will replace it with something better. Does not necessarily mean that you need to leave your job today so that you don't sit at home with no source of income and you're in a very bad situation. But what it means is start looking for a halal job today and make an intention that you will keep working hard. And even if it's a lower paying job that you find, move to it. Because at least this is halal money. This is money that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put barakah in. It's not money that is haram money that will have no barakah and you will see it evaporate every single day and you won't even make it to the end of the month. Leave it for Allah, my dear brothers and sisters, when it comes to dealing with riba. Whether it is taking that money to buy a house or to buy a car or whatever it is, leave it for Allah. Leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it with something better. And He will give you something much, much, much better. Have this conviction in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't do it just because you're basically trying it out. Do it because you're absolutely sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you something better. Will replace it with something better. Leave it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Finally, my dear brothers and sisters, leaving it for Allah. How do I do that? We understand the concept now. We understand that we should leave anything wrong that we're doing for Allah. Not for people, not for anyone, not for anything. We should leave it for Allah. And at the same time, we understand the other half, which is if we leave it for Allah, Allah will give us something better and will replace it with something better. But how do we do that? We do it with a very, very simple concept. We do it by making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the greatest in our lives. See, what happens is that when you're disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any issue, for example, okay, you're not, sisters who are not wearing their hijab. What you're really doing is this, you're saying, okay, what people will say about me if I wear hijab and I go outside, and Allah. What people will say about me, and Allah. And then you switch them. Allah, what people will say about me. Allah, what people will say about, and you keep on trying to make this balance, and there's no way you can make a balance between the two. You have to choose one of the two. Which one will you choose? Whatever you choose becomes your God. Because gods, are not only, idols, other idols that you have, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. A God can be anything in your life that you make the greatest. That is why when the adhan calls, it says, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater. Allah is greater than anything. Allah is greater than anything in this world. And if you want to leave something for Allah, you do it by always putting that thing on one side of the scale and putting obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the other side, and always making the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heavier. Always making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your God, and not anyone else, not anything else. When you do that, then you'll simply be able to leave it for Allah. Not for anyone, not for anything, but for Allah. Leave it for Allah, my dear brothers and sisters, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace it with something better. مَنْ تَرَكَ شَيْئًا لِلَّهِ عَوَّضَهُ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهُ. Whoever leaves something for Allah, Allah will replace it and will give him something even better. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Thank you for allowing me in your homes. I'll see you next time, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Together we can make it on the road to Jannah. You and me hand in hand on the road to Jannah. Together we can make it on the road to Jannah. You and me hand in hand on the road to Jannah. All my life I've had this dream where I can live in peace, knowing you and me are on the road, on the road, on the road.